Hello, how's everyone doing?
Hello.
I'm Jennifer. Trying to get my other two partners in crime off their juice break. Come in here. And we're gonna move at a pretty brisk clip because we kind of got a little too long-winded during the first presentation. I don't want to leave anybody out because Bruce and Peter probably more important to hear from than me. Go ahead and close that door. See, with the lights on, I'd love to keep them on because I can't read anything in the dark, is it? Or do y'all need them turned off just a little bit? How's that? That work? Okay. All right, let's get going. I'm Jennifer Maier. I'm the director of the Shelby County Museum and Archives in Columbiana, Alabama. Anybody here ever been there? How are you doing? You're back. Yeah, we helped you a little bit, didn't we? I guess we should probably give your permission, never be in front of me. Yeah, no, you brought in a lot of people to help, so. I'm happy to have the opportunity to share with you a wonderful new index, Albert Baker Datcher Jr. Slave People's Index, that is available within the archive. And the purpose of the index is to help people interested in researching slaves owned in Shelby County during the 1800s. Join us today are Mr. Bruce Cooper, the Museum and Archives Research Assistant. Wave to everybody. And of course, y'all have already seen and heard from Mr. Datcher, who spoke to us earlier, and we're going to try and leave room at the end for him to speak again. Before I tell you more about what the Datcher collection is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it is not. The Datcher collection is not an attempt to open old wounds or to pass judgment on previous generations. The Datcher collection is a tool, it's a resource that we hope will be able to answer questions that have gone unanswered for generations. I can personally attest that Black history is hard to trace back very far. I've had the opportunity to help people who have come into our archive, and I know that the roadblocks are many. As director of an archive, I don't like anybody to walk out of the door without having some sort of information that they were looking for. This is why the index that we have created is so important. It helps people find that needle in a haystack that might otherwise remain hidden. And we can find those names that need to be said. And we can honor those people by speaking their name. Maya Angelou said, history, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, may not be lived again. What I take away from this quote is that while the pain of the past may never go away, if we bear witness to the existence of that past, we are less likely to repeat it. Next, Helen Keller said, there is no king who has not had a slave among his ancestors, and no slave who has not had a king among his. We are all equal. To give you a little back history, several years ago, I was talking to Mr. Datcher about his own family research in Shelby County, and I didn't know Mr. Datcher well at the time. He was and still is a member of our board of directors of the Shelby County Historical Society, but I was aware that he was considered one of the preeminent authorities on Black history in the area. While we talked, Mr. Datcher made a comment that I will never forget. We honor our ancestors when we say their names. Their names need to be said, especially those that made it out of slavery. Black history is generally not known. I carried this comment in my mind and in my heart, and it was Mr. Datcher's tireless pursuit of his family story that served as an inspiration. It felt right that years later we would name the index after Mr. I want to show you an 8-minute video that was put together during the height of COVID around 2020 with the assistance of some Latter-day Saints missionaries. So I'm going to go ahead and click to that and let y'all start watching.
Their names need to be said, especially those that made it out of slavery. Black history is generally not known. In the slave symbol, I'm going to go to the slave index later. In the slave symbol, people were listening to. And I mean, when you come up to 1866 or before, after that, 1860, after slavery, you can get nine. You can get nine. At least of the death male, and that they have family. But in 1970, you get names of family. But before then, and you're trying to look up your people, generally all you can get, 90% of all you can get is just a slave owner's name. Now, what slave symbols will have, 1860 and 1850 is male, female, black, mulatto, and whether they were sick or invalid or something.
The slave index is an Excel spreadsheet, and it's very searchable. If someone comes in and they know the name of the plantation owner or the slave that they are looking for, we can go into this slave index, and hopefully it will sort and give us the names that we're looking for. Our director, Jennifer Maier, about 3 years ago, decided that this was something that we needed to do since we do have the original records. We began looking through those books, wills, deeds, court records, page by page, searching for slave names, owner names, what happened to these slaves, whether they were willed to someone in through the courts or whether they were sold. We worked on it, several people did. We had some Falcon scholars from the University of Alabama. We had other volunteers who came in, and we looked at every page and we found the name and put them in the Excel sheet. Most of the time, the records were written, of course, prior to 1865, and they are strictly that, court records. It's cursive handwriting for the majority. Sometimes there's good, sometimes there's poor. But we have learned how to read them, we can decipher them, but it is the legal transaction of the court.
When you can find your people, like I did, in a will or in any document, you'll hit the mother law. I mean, that's solid gold, mindful gold, because you cross over and you know that not only who owned them, but their names are listed there. That's the mother law. That's God's best you can do. Now, in 1880, it's very important. Reason I said we need to spell people's names. Another reason is that slavery wasn't just one generation. I didn't realize that the 1880 census was so important. 1870, that person said, I was born in Alabama. Oh, I was born in Maryland. I was born in Georgia. I was born in South Carolina. I was there. But when you come to the 1880 census, they said, not only that about themselves, they said, my father, my mother was born in South Carolina. That means multiple generations. Depending on the age, that person died enslaved. That person worked till they died enslaved. So to me, it is unbelievably important to try to find your people's name as far back as you can go. And this is very important because also all these type of records are available to every county or every state because they destroyed a lot of the courthouses and things. Those were destroyed. Sometimes destroyed just to destroy the slave records. So people wouldn't know who was the slave owners. And plus it was destroyed in the Civil War for those reasons.
The index involves looking in will book, deeds, state records, also probate court records. We are very fortunate here that we have the original documents. And so we glean that information from those books. If you would like us to look up that information, we can also research that information here, and we can email you the information, or you're welcome to come in to our museum and look up the information in person.
If you find out your ancestors were, you look at the census, you're staying in whatever. You're researching your ancestors, you put down much information as you can, and you find out they came from Alabama. Then you research the more, and you find out they came from Shelby County. Or if you're already here in Shelby County, you realize that your heritage is 20 years. I was able to give some people their heritage because of that, what was right down there. One of the oldest slaves, or the last generation of slaves, died in the early 1930s. One of them was named Luke Tree. He was the father of all the Greeks that remained in Hop Street. And even though there was a large plantation of them, all the fields, the descendants were the ones that remained. He was on the three second word. Now I knew he was a three, that he would be in, but it showed him that there was some of his children and stuff that he was having there. And that was important to them. They got to see his name listed in the flag as a flag, not just a list of slaves. We as Blacks, we should stay in contact with each other and ancestry anytime we can do, and especially here in this state and this county, to look up our ancestors. The reason being, this is reason their names need to be said, especially those that made it out of slavery, especially those that made it through the first 40 years, 40 or 50 years of slavery, after slavery. If they made it out, we as our people need to know the name, because the lives and the life that they had to survive, our lives now like ice cream and cake, compared to some dirty chicken laid on a dirty piece of bone with chicken laying on the ground. Our lives now.
That video has really brought to the attention of the world the index that we have done. And from that, we have had calls come in from all over with people looking to see if we have anything regarding their ancestors. And we do sometimes, Bruce. We've been able to answer questions that have gone unanswered for generations. All right. I'm going to give you a rundown briefly on how to get. Yes.
I wanted to ask the question. You indexed the material, or you just was able to find names on different plantations?
No, these are drawn from our county record books and they are indexed in an Excel spreadsheet.
Just for what state?
Out as Shelby County, only Shelby County, Alabama. That was enough. That was all we could handle. That took about 4 years. So maybe we'll go further, but go to shelbycountyhistory.com if you want to look at our website, and you can scroll down and click where it says research our archive. You will want to click there. You're going to see basically a website page that has all of our indexes listed, marriage records, family files, all that stuff that we have. But what you're really going to want to click on is this beautiful woman here, who is Mr. Datcher's great-grandmother, Lucy. So clicking on Lucy takes you to the Albert Baker Datcher Jr. collection, for which we have 4 sections up here: will book, probate estate, loose records, and deed book. So this kind of answers your question. Everything that we have in this index came from a book or record, which is housed at the Shelby County Archives in Columbiana. So we have will books, probate estate files. We have over 1,700 of those. Loose records, basically what I mean by that is loose court records where there was a court case, and then deed books. And you can click on any of those and it will take you to, whatever it says it's taking you to. Let's imagine we just clicked on the will book index. A lot of information is there. So I know it's overwhelming. There is a way to peel back that onion and get to it, but the amount of information and the detail is second to none. I have never seen in any index. There are other indexes out there. I'm not saying we're any better, but I will say our level of detail that we provide you within our index is pretty good. You're going to get the source, the book number, which is our book number at the museum and archive. Page number, date, owner, surname, given name.
So they can actually then go on the shelf and look at the book.
Yeah, you absolutely can. And hopefully soon, we're gonna have it to where you have the image on the website. Age, gender, appraised value, sold, new given name, and notes. A lot. I'm gonna zoom,
Could
yeah.
you say that again, age, gender, and who?
Oh, and it's in, did I give you a handout?
No.
I'm so sorry. No, but, yes, we can go back and look at that. That is source.
I give you.
So you've got the source, which is basically what I mean by that is it's found in one of our will books, for example, will book 1818 to 1846. That is book number 22. That's our unique identifier. It's just solely used within our archive. It's gonna tell you what page, 143 or 349, the date of the entry, the owner's surname, his given name, the enslaved person's name, age, if we can find it. So you can see we can't always find the age, gender, the appraised value and the value if they were sold, and any notes, inventory of the property of John Allen, sale of the slaves, new owners, name not given. If there was detail that Bruce could pull out, by the way, he went page by page through all these documents to pull out these names. 4 years of looking. I'm gonna bring your attention to this name, Susie, right here. So you're able to click here and search an index. That's basically like any search function. You type in a name. You want to get a little bit larger with what you see, and I can certainly understand why you would, because it's all crammed in there. You do that, or you can click right there and you can go to full window view. We'll show you examples of that in a little while. But you can see here an enslaved person named Susie is found on page 143 of Will Book B, 1818 to 1841. The book identifier, unique identifier is 22. From the information it provided, you can see that Susie was owned by John Allen, as described as a female +1, possibly indicating an infant or a child with her.
What was the name you put in the search? That's great grandparent, or you have another person?
I don't really know how it came to this one. I just did an example just to show you something. But what I did is, if you're looking for someone, for example, we're going to use the name McHenry soon. You'll just click on that, type in McHenry, and any reference to McHenry, whether it's as an owner's surname or if he appears in the notes or anything, is going to pull them up. And then you kind of do your digging. You do your digging. And Bruce is going to show you kind of some real world examples of this. But I just kind of want to give you the lay of the land. So we see her appraised value is 450. Over here, I didn't click it and show it very well, but you can see it's got some additional notes. This particular slide is important because, and I'm going to have Mr. Datcher speak to this a little bit later about his experience on finding his great grandfather. But Mr. Datcher was one of the first people that came in after we had really kind of formed our first draft of the index. And you had been looking for years about where was Albert, who was his enslaver. And you had a name in mind that you just said, let's look at Singleton. I'm gonna let him explain to you later why Singleton was important. And he may have earlier, I think, when you spoke. But Bruce typed in the word Singleton, up popped all these Singletons. We start looking, and there is Albert, her name Albert, your great grandfather. And the reason you know that is you have the association with the name Singleton, which you know from family lore and information you were provided. But he is also among other family members such as Henry and Alexandra and more. You recognize those names. That is your great grandfather. That needle in a haystack we found. I like to put faces with names. That's Albert. And his wife is. I spoke to you just a moment ago about really using the search here function. Just click on it, type in McHenry, and that's just an example that I came up with. You're gonna see that there are 90 matches of a McHenry. But each and every match has an associated actual document, which is in our archive. So I just pulled one. You see the name Bob, Tug, George, Darkus, and Silva. And actually, there's one Charlotte. Here they are. That's the index.
Does it
The coordinating
say
paper.
whether there's their sister, brother?
I don't know the detail. There may have been additional notes, but for this example, I don't know, but we can actually look it up at another time. But, fortunately, Bruce did put a lot of detail like that in there, so you never know. Let's go into the deed book example. And we learned about deed books being a source of enslaved individuals' names through another class I was taking. I was like, well, why are they in deed books? Because slaves were considered property. And they were often used as collateral for loans. So, but the deed book contains valuable information. Once again, we're talking about the name of the enslaved, their age, gender, appraisal. They were sold, given a new surname, given a new given name, and any notes. See, when you're providing, think about when you finance a car, you're using it as collateral. They want to know the year, they want to know the value of it, what color is it, what condition is it in. Those are the things that are giving that individual slave whatever perceived value is going to either settle a debt or to serve as collateral for a debt, or if they're just showing that this individual with the name Walter gave a slave to his daughter Agatha. It's all recorded in the deeds. So it's just a wealth of information. It was surprising to us, but has really been a good source of information. Loose court records I was talking about earlier. Court case filed if there was a slave involved, selling liquor to cruelty to a slave. It went back and forth. So the slave may have been doing something wrong too, but it could be the owner. Cruelty to a slave. You never know. That's not as common as an actual slave getting in trouble. But it does happen every so often. I'm going to show you down here. In 1850, a man named Joseph Dodd bought 10 pounds of bacon from a slave named William. So what we're seeing here reflected in these court cases are the application of the slave code, restriction and movement of slaves, prohibitions on gathering, marriage restrictions, punishment and killing of slaves, trade and commerce by slaves. So the selling of 10 pounds of bacon by will to Joseph, that's where that trade and commerce by slaves, not allowed to do it, not allowed to sell it. Here is the actual document from our collection showing Joseph B. Dodd, 10 pounds of bacon from a slave, William, otherwise called Bill, and he was a property of Alexander Nelson. Alexander Nelson pops up quite a bit. Shelby County, we have more to say about it. I'm going to conclude my portion, but I want to thank Bruce, who's sitting over there, and Mr. Dapper, of course, and they're going to speak in a minute. But I do have to say that this video was created several years ago by Sister Parker and Sister Roseknapp, who were missionaries serving at the museum. They actually pieced that video together. And like I said, that video itself has brought in so much attention to our actual index, so I'd like to give them credit on that. Next up, I'm going to have Bruce, and he's got some real examples that he's going to actually play around with our website and type in some names, and hopefully it'll work, hopefully. I've magnified these a little bit larger rooms. Is that okay? Okay, I'll get out of the
the name's gonna type in, gotta be from Shelby County.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be, it's all going to be applicable to out Shelby County. We're hoping other counties will do something. In an ideal world.
Now, on your way out, you might want to stop by. I brought some examples of some actual books from our records. 1840 books, 1830 books. We also have estate cases and wills. We also have loose records, which like she said, we have like 22,000 envelopes. And each envelope may contain one sheet of paper, maybe 200 or 300. But all of these records were gone through. First one I'd like to talk about, we have estate cases. And estate cases, these are the real documents from 1856. That if you find information on here and you want to see what that document is, you come to us and we can show you the actual document, make a copy of it if you would like. So all of this information is there. If you ever want to come and look, please welcome to do that. But let's look at the estate case first. And once again, Jennifer. How about back out here, estate?
I'll take you to the wrong. Hey, go ahead and just click on research on one.
There's the Badger collection, and there's an estate case. And all of these operate basically the same. You have a magnifying glass up here in the corner. You can click on that, type in a name. Now, unfortunately, you will not have the ability right now to collate them by last name, slave name, or whatever. I can do that at the museum, but you can type in a name, and let's look at the name for estate cases. Let's type in the word cross and see what we come up with. Now, it shows us that we have 172 entries. That does not mean that there were 172 different individuals. Estate cases, sometimes, just like today, there are family squabbles. It takes years, sometimes, to finish the case. But I went through every different document. I put down every name. If I had 10 documents, the same name may appear 10 times. But I want to make sure that every document may have a gem of information that the other one didn't. So I did it all. So there's 172 entries. You can look over here, and there's Croft, John C., the name of the enslaved person, gender, and the appraised value at the time. Over here, we have notes. Let's see, how do I get to these big pages?
Click on
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Over here, we have some notes, if there were any notes now. Like I say, 4 years ago, she came, she said, Bruce, I want a project, see if you can find slave name. Okay, 4 years later, I'm still tweaking. Okay, it's taken 4 years, it's a 4-year project. I had gone back in the blank spaces. When I first started, I was not aware of every information I need to put down. I have since adjusted that, and that's going to be updated shortly. But there are notes, some appraisal, some inventory. She asked about children. There are times in there where it said Susie and her 2 children, thus and such. I made notations of that, so you would know that yes, these were their children. Okay.
Can I briefly interject? I'm so sorry. I meant to mention this up front. How did we get to the point where we wanted to collect these names? Well, we were digitizing our entire collection, taking pictures of it so that those images could be uploaded to Family Search and made available to the world. And it was as we were digitizing those records during the period of slavery that those names started to come out. And we said, that is a project that we're going to do. We finished our digitizing project, put all the images, gave them to Family Search. Then we said, let's go back and let's revisit page by page, Bruce, page by page, and pull out those names and let's start recording them. And it was just a simple Excel spreadsheet, and it kind of grew into this, but it did evolve from another project. I just wanted to make that clear.
And some of the books had 600 pages, some of there were a couple that had 800 pages. To emphasize what she said, we went through page by page, every page. Now we're looking at a deed book. There's a copy up here of it. And let's look up the name Bailey. Again, a large number, okay? And if you'll notice right here, well, it shows up on the screen, it is highlighted. Every time the word Bailey is mentioned. In this case, this was from a record of 1843. Eleanor Bailey, the name of the enslaved was Sebring. At this time, Sebring was 20 years old. That's important. Because if you're looking for Sebring and you aren't sure when he was born, you now have an approximate date. I'm not saying it's arid height, because a lot of slaves are just said about 5 years old or whatever, but you have an idea. It also gave, in this case, gender. Okay? There is one record that we came across that at the time I was unaware of the significance of it. Slave code has been mentioned several times. These slave codes differ from state to state. I have an article. This is loose case paper. All of these are individual papers from the 1850 court case. And I had no idea what I was dealing with until somebody told me later, but it involved a case where a man named Alexander Nelson lived in Tennessee in 1821. He died. He had Phyllis was his slave, and she had 4 children. His will says at the time of his death, he wanted Phyllis to be free. When he died, Phyllis was given her freedom. Unfortunately, she died en route to Liberia. The 4 children that remained with his son were then moved to Alabama when he moved. Alabama law changed. It wasn't Tennessee. He was about to move once again in 1857 to Arkansas. The 4 slaves brought suit against their owner for their freedom. Because they said we should have, in the will in Tennessee, we should now be free. Alexander Nelson said, no, we're in Alabama now. Well, this case was never resolved as far as we knew. I was fortunate enough that I found the answer. And Alexander won the case. Slaves lost. So they went from Alabama to Arkansas. Sad case, but I had never heard of a slave being able to bring suit against their master. So you find out a lot of information. I want to give Mr. Datcher some time, but if you have any questions that you think we might be able to help after you looked at our slave index, give us a call. We can, if you live far away and can't drive, we can make a copy, send it to you so you have a copy of the exact page. You're welcome to come and hold a 200-year-old book and look at it. Whichever you can do, but anyway, we can have this thing.
The information that you're discussing, is it available in the sense that we go to the website and can look at it?
No, unfortunately, all you have is an index. Right now, we're in the process of trying to, the feasibility of at some point, putting that digitized on the screen where you can actually bring up that image.
You say you digitized them for somebody else?
For family search.
Is it available through family search?
They're still indexing it. Like I mentioned earlier, they just have.
But without an index, could somebody, if they knew the book, go in and look at the raw pages and flip through them?
They wouldn't
Okay.
be able to do that. But just to give you kind of an update, our goal is for this to be something that you can click on and see the image. That's in the future. Those things, it took us 4 years to create the index. We actually have the images through the digitizing process. We are currently trying to crop them, and we hope to be getting a grant soon from a company for us to go work with a company called From the Page, where not only can we have the image of the book, but through a crowdsourcing effort, there can also be a transcription. So first of all, the writings, like I said earlier, sometimes hard to read. You've got the image that you can look at online, and to the right of it, you'll have a transcription that's been done through a crowdsourcing effort. But, you know, once again, this is thousands of them.
But again, if you need some help, call me. I'd love to help you. That's what I do. Mr. Jackson.
You're up.
And that slave that was sued, in what state was that, in Alabama?
That was in Alabama, but they were supposedly given their freedom in Tennessee. But once they moved, the laws changed. And they had to abide by Alabama law, not Tennessee law.
And this is the actual court case. And it had, there
So
have
the
been papers written.
Supreme Court couldn't do anything about.
It wasn't taken to the Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah, true.
What did, how, this thing affected what they done. But first, I'll also tell you, when you get a chance, if you get up, walk by and actually look at those pages. To see what they had, what Bruce and his help had to read. You pick it up a little bit, just a little bit, and you say, and then how many books like that y'all went through?
I don't know, probably
100
20,
or something?
probably 20, 30 books, but each one may
Okay.
have 800 pages.
That's what I'm talking about. Now, okay. I'm trying to be quick, because I didn't realize we were doing this book.
Sorry, did I?
First, I tell all of you, Google Alabama Slave Code, write it down on your notes. Google Alabama Slave Code, and then print it off. Go old school, print it off. Because it's gonna be, I think, about 10 pages. First part, first 50 pages is great, last no part, the last 50 pages. Now, here's why I said it. It will give you a very strong understanding of what our slave ancestors were locked in to do and the rules. It also tells you why things weren't good after slavery. But they did make some more readjustment a little bit. But that Alabama Slave Code will explain a whole lot of what they've been telling. Like she was talking about the people that sold things and bought. It was illegal for a slave to buy and sell anything. It was illegal for the slave to learn. It was in the codes, in the law, to learn how to read and write. Illegal. It was illegal to even be a free black man in this state. Illegal. Okay, now. If you're going to them, which that goes to them, here's what you got to already be done. You want to use your last name is one thing. You want to be able to wrote that down. Your last name. That or your ancestors' last name. When you're trying to find the slave owner of them or what your people, then you got to be done the research to know you heard me say you need to say their names. You've got to be done have their names and their last name already written from anywhere from 1867 to 1880. You got to have their names. Why? And their brothers' names. And if they're alive, their father's name. Whoever's 20 years old or so, got a family, you got to have a name so that when you said to them, hey, look at this last name. Not your ancestors' first name, but the surname. Then you got to be able to look at the pages of the slave owners in that area that they live. You say, well, look at this slave owner, because a lot of our people changed their names after slavery. Usually for two reasons. Number one, they knew who they were before they were purchased at that time. Now, if they had been in this family for a generation or more, they were just about going to use that name. But like Albert Baker, his father was purchased in Tennessee by the Singletons. Singletons did have slaves in their family that would carry the last name Singleton. But Albert Baker's father never carried the Singleton's name. And he had told Albert Baker, you're a Baker. So when they came out, they never used the Singleton name. The other Singleton slaves did. Just like the Dutchess. The Dutchess knew that they weren't Tubmans. Tubman bought them in Maryland, brought them here to Alabama around 1830. They served the slave, but they used the Tubman name between 1866 and 1870. My grandfather was born Frank Tubman, but 1880, everybody that changed the name to Dutchess because their parents told them who they were. You were Dutchess. You were bought up there and brought down. Okay, now, the reason that this affected me so much, and I don't think I said this out there, but was because I told y'all out there, if you go out there where I got this boat, I told the people that my mother had handed down things to me, that were handed down all the way from grandmother and so forth, that she learned from her slave mother. Things were handed down. Also, Dr. W.R. Singleton had sold my great grandfather 100 acres of land. 1879. And Mama didn't know why, but she knew that had been done. She had seen the deed. But now, in fact, the deed stayed in the safe for all those years. It was saved in the bank because it was that big a deed. You're talking about deed 100-something years old. Okay. This particular incident happened, what made all of this like a big puzzle come together. Big puzzle, come together. I've been working on this for 20 years, but I didn't know, I knew I was missing who Albert Baker's ancestors, slave ancestors were. I couldn't find them. I even looked at the Bakers in Wilsonville that owned two slaves. They didn't own that many, they owned a few. Those slaves came out of slavery, but there was one big key difference. I feel I tell people to pay attention to all the information on the census. Albert Baker and his parents, he stayed separate from him, but his parents were listed as mulatto. All the slaves that the Bakers had were listed as black. What does mulatto mean? There you go. What we call biracial now, generally. Okay, anyway, that told me that they weren't, that people didn't have nothing to do with it. Okay. When I was a little kid, and my mother never let me forget this, two elderly white women showed up at our doorstep. I tell everybody this, but it was a big key fact. Elderly white women showing up at the doorstep. Oh, the white woman, I'm back in there, the old mom, she comes out. Yes, ma'am, what can we do for you? She said, you were told the Dutchess stayed here. Y'all Dutchess? Yes, ma'am. She said, we think the Dutchess were the ones that Albert Baker, or these Albert Baker's descendants. She said, yes, ma'am, that's his great grandson right there, pointing at me. She said, there's a grandson out there in God. Oh, good. We want to know if y'all still have all the land that Dr. W.R. Singleton sold to Albert Baker. She said, yeah, we got it all. We ain't never sold a bit. Those ladies go to screaming and hollering. And I said it so parents. Screaming and hollering, but white women screaming and hollering on their door in 1956, that made a good thing. Okay? I mean, well, a few of y'all might, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Come on,
yeah,
come on.
yeah.
Okay. And she said, what did I do? My mother go to panic and goes, y'all scream on. She goes, the lady told her, oh, no, oh, everything's okay, everything's okay. She invited me. She said, why are you here? Well, I mean, what was it that happened? She said, we're the granddaughter, Dr. W.R. Singleton. He had made us promise him not just once, but multiple times when we were young kids on his deathbed, that we would come back here before we died and see that Albert Baker, his descendant, had kept the land in his soul. And she said, you know, but why would you do that? He said that Albert Baker and that Dr. Singleton had told her that Albert Baker and he were best friends and that